Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Kate Chance, and I'm the Faith Liaison with Montgomery County and the Office of Community Partnerships. So we're putting together different town halls that we're hoping to have the first and the third Tuesday of every month. And so today our speakers are from EveryMind, which I am really excited about. I have so many folks in the faith community reach out to me and ask about what mental health resources are available. Reverend Casey Caseman, who was formerly in my position, was so excited to hear about this webinar. He sent me an email once he saw it. And so just being able to highlight EveryMind's resources is really exciting, and I'm thrilled about the opportunity. We are recording this so that we can share this with folks who are not able to join us today, probably because the weather is incredible today. So I'm really grateful to have these folks with us, and I'm going to ask Amon to open us in prayer.
Thank you, Kate. It's my honor to start our meeting with the Sikh prayer. I'm going to recite the Moor Mantar. The Moor Mantar is the central prayer of the Sikh faith and was first uttered by Guru Nanak Dev Ji, the founder of the Sikh faith. Ekamkar Satnam Karta Purkh Nirvo Nirva Akal Murat Ajuni Savan Gur Prasad. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. The prayer translates to there is only one God. His name is true. He is the creator without fear, without hate, omnipresent, free from birth and death, released through the grace of the true God. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amon. I appreciate that so much. That was beautiful. So one second. All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. But before I pass it off to our two speakers, I want to let you all know about a couple future events that we'll be having, and I'll put some information in the chat. But on Monday, the 21st at 7 p.m., we're having an event to thank our faith community for stepping up during COVID and the pandemic and all the various ways like supporting affordable housing, food security. So the county executive and the county council president will be joining us, and maybe a few other elected officials. So I'll send that link. We're also trying to get pictures for a slideshow and capture as much information about how the faith community has been helpful during this time. So there's a Google form to fill out. Other upcoming town halls that we have on April 5th at 7 p.m., we're going to hear from our gardening committee on how to create sustainable gardens with houses of worship. And on April 19th, we're going to hear from our team on affordable housing, issues facing our county faces with affordable housing, and also how you can construct affordable housing on house of worship property. So now I'm going to pass it off to our two lovely speakers that we have today here from EveryMind. We have Jennifer Grinnell and Laura Laskowski. Did I say that correctly? I think you're both co-hosts as well.
Oh, great. Good evening, everyone. Let me see. I'm just going to share it, and then I'm going to start it as the slideshow. Okay. Can you see my first slide? The welcome to EveryMind? Yeah? Okay. Laura, so the way that my computer is set up, I can't see chat. So if you could watch chat for me, and if there's something, will you let me know? And then when we switch, I can do the same thing.
Sure. You might just put it in presentation mode though.
Okay, hold on. Okay, hold on. Always with.
I think if you hit from the beginning, I think that should work.
What do you all see?
We see the first slide, and then we see the other slides on the left side.
Got it. Okay, hold on one second. You know what it did? I'm so sorry. Hold on one second. Let's see if I can do this again. Screen 3. Oh my gosh. Remember I told you earlier, my computer is doing something really weird. Okay, now what do you see? Yeah, I got it this time.
Yep.
Okay.
Perfect.
I appreciate all the patience. I want to tell you that whatever my computer is doing right now is something that it has never done before in presentations. So just bear with me if I click the wrong way. So anyway, good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Jen Grinnell, and I am part of the education team at EveryMind, and we have gotten a couple opportunities to talk with Kate about the mental health needs in Montgomery County, and specifically when we think about kind of all of the faith-based groups. And so we're looking forward to sharing some information not only about EveryMind, but also about some of the stigma surrounding mental health. So just some of the objectives that we're going to cover. We are going to look at highlighting the importance of reducing the stigma surrounding mental health conditions. Look at how EveryMind really addresses mental health and community-wide programs. Then we're going to look at all of the direct service programs across the lifespan that we do offer that hopefully will be helpful to you all and useful as you look for resources for all of the work that you do with the community. And then again, some other key contacts. We always want to make sure that you leave with maybe a direct contact with somebody that you might want to talk to, for somebody that you might be helping, or even for yourself. Okay. So EveryMind's mission is to EveryMind strengthens communities and empowers individuals to reach optimal mental wellness. I do want to leave time at the end. So this video was a small video really about our services that we've put in there, and we can send you the slides and you can watch it, but I'm going to move to the next slide so that we can kind of talk more about what we do. So EveryMind, for anybody that was on the call, we actually also we were formerly the Mental Health Association of Montgomery County. About 6 years ago, maybe 5.5 years ago, same organization, same services, but we changed our name from the Mental Health Association, or MHA, of Montgomery County to EveryMind. So we really have been serving Montgomery County for more than 60 years. In Montgomery County, we're the largest provider of school-based mental health services. And we do offer programs and services across the whole lifespan, from young children all the way to older adults. And when my colleague Laura starts on her section, the second half, she'll really tell you more about some of those specific programs. We do community education on mental health and wellness topics like what we're doing tonight. And we also provide mental health first aid to organizations, and we can talk more about that also. One of the things is we are really deep in Montgomery County, but we do have services, and we already are really starting to expand our reach into the National Capital Region. So the first thing I want to talk about is really highlighting the importance of reducing the stigma surrounding mental health conditions. One of the things that I love about our name, about EveryMind, is it's so interchangeable with different ways. And one of the main things that we looked at when we changed our name was, first of all, even having the term mental health in the name of our organization already had some stigma attached to it. All of us know that, I mean, right now, though, in the last couple of years, due to the pandemic, mental health has certainly been highlighted, and we've seen really the toll that it has taken on all of us. And it has kind of bubbled up to recognize that our physical health is just as important as our mental health. And so I love this tagline that every mind matters. Just a few statistics. I guarantee all of us on this call know someone who has been diagnosed with a mental illness at some point. 1 in 5 United States adults experience mental illness each year. 1 in 25 experience a serious mental illness. 1 in 6 United States youth aged 6 to 17 experience a mental health disorder each year. So 6 years old is usually around first grade, just to give you a sense of kind of like what our youth are facing as well. And suicide is the second leading cause of death among people aged 10 to 34. So just a quick definition, that stigma is a mark of disgrace that's associated with a particular circumstance, quality, or person. And what we know is that stigma and misinformation are significant barriers to accessing help and resources. This can be for lots of different reasons in terms of like some of that misinformation and stigma. And what we learn as children, even adults, what we hear, what we see on the news impacts sometimes that misinformation and stops people from really reaching out and accessing the help that they need. This can be in any culture, and there are other cultures that definitely have a higher stigma, but we know that stigma is across the board in terms of what it comes to. A lot of us talk about mental health and we know how important it is, but when it actually comes to asking for help or telling somebody that we're seeing a therapist, or that we're feeling really depressed, or that we're sad and we don't know why, many times what happens is that we don't end up telling people that. Although if we broke a leg, if someone that we know is maybe diagnosed with diabetes or got cancer, we freely and openly share that information. But even today, even with all that we know, we still really hold that mental health so close, and we don't share enough. So we hope with some of these presentations, we can help all of us share just a little bit more. So here's a couple ways that you can fight intrapersonal mental health stigma. So this is kind of our intrapersonal is how we communicate with ourselves. So we want to encourage equality between physical and mental illness. If you have to go see your cardiologist 10 times, you should also go see your therapist 10 times. It should be totally equal. One of them is to educate yourself. I think this is one of the biggest things. It's why I love working for our education department in EveryMind, is to learn more about what's out there and what this stigma is. Choosing empowerment over shame and releasing some of that self-stigma that we have that goes round and round in our heads. Next is some of the interpersonal mental health stigma. So this is, okay, I know this, but how do I communicate then with other people? Well, we talk openly about mental health. We come here to talk about it. The more we talk about it, the more comfortable it becomes, the more natural it is as part of our conversations. Same, we want to encourage the equality between physical and mental illness. Language is important. I'm learning more and more. I already knew it, but I learn more and more every day that we want to use first person language. So one example that you might have heard is that person. Now, this is not mental health, but this is a good example for using first person language. So rather than saying, oh, that person is autistic, you would say, I'm sorry, that's an autistic person, you would say that person has autism. Similarly, if we talk about like, we're putting the person first, because yes, someone may have autism. Yes, someone may have depression. They may have anxiety, but that doesn't define who they are. It's just part of who they are. They're themselves first. So we want person first language. Educating others, showing compassion for those with mental illness, being honest about treatment. And again, letting someone else know when they might when they are being stigmatizing towards someone else. Okay. Okay, so now I'd like to, I'm going to shift a little bit and talk about EveryMind's framework for how we addressed mental health and community-wide programs. Another tagline that I love, EveryMind needs attention, care, and support. So there really is, like everything, there's a continuum when we think about mental health and wellness. It's not one or the other. And really, we all kind of flow back and forth. I think the pandemic is a perfect example of where we've seen ourselves kind of flow. We might have been all the way here on the left in that healthy, normal functioning, going along, but I don't know anybody that didn't move probably all the way over into that moderate disruption when we think about our mental health and when the pandemic hit and kind of living through that and figuring that out. Does it mean that you stay in that moderate disruption? Nope, probably come back down, maybe go back up. And so all of us, again, go through these continuums depending on events that are happening in our life. That's from loss of a job, loss of a loved one. We know grief looks like it takes a lot of different forms and moves us into this continuum. And I think it's important because sometimes there's a lot of black and white thinking when we think about having a mental health issue or not, is that we all move along this continuum. Okay. The way that EveryMind has set up our programs to support every level is we have at the core is the individual. In terms of when we support, this model is at the individual, this is community education. Maybe somebody took mental health first aid, really learning, again, going back to that, the self-knowledge. Then we have interpersonal. So this is where we have individual and family case management and therapy, support for trauma and reunification. Then moving up to, and also we do in the interpersonal in terms of that, we also are looking at the homeless system that we work in also. Then when we look at community, these are partnerships at the heart of our work. We do linkages to learning programs and other partnerships within the school system. We do advocacy. Oh, I'm sorry. And then the last is public policy, the one that kind of surrounds us all, where we have advocacy at local and state levels to support lots of initiatives that really are important to mental health, like mental health parity, which is that equality between physical health and mental health, that should be equal. Okay. So one of the things when we look at some of the community education that supports that framework is Laura and I, and we have a lot of other EveryMind educators, internal staff, we have external consultants that come in to provide community education. So we do trained, knowledgeable facilitation. We use research-informed materials, and we do customize it to each audience because we're not going to present to a PTA the same way that we might present to a room full of licensed therapists. So we want to make sure that the information is specific and unique to whoever it is that we are presenting to. And this goes for a lot of times we also get requests depending on if there was a crisis that happened. So of course, we're going to go in with knowledge about what that crisis is, knowledge also for whatever resources that organization has so that we are embedding the resources that are appropriate for that group. So we just, again, going back to that customization. We provide mental health first aid training. We do mental wellness training, self-care, suicide prevention, and we do homelessness trainings as well. Hopefully I'm not going too fast. And Laura, if I forgot anything, jump in. Okay, so the last one that I'd like to talk about is our hotline. So EveryMind, this is through our crisis prevention and intervention services. So EveryMind has been running the Montgomery County Crisis Hotline for more than 50 years. Sometimes this gets confusing because we're not the crisis center. The crisis center is the one located on Picard where you can walk in 24 hours a day. We run the hotline. We work really closely with the crisis center though, and oftentimes people will call the crisis center and the crisis center will transfer it over to us. So this is our number, that 301-738-2255. I encourage everyone on the call and anyone you share this with to save this number in your phone, because what people usually think about the hotline is that you have to be in crisis. I know I did. Even in all my years of working in mental health services, when I thought about hotline, to me, it meant crisis. But the truth is that 50% of our calls are supportive listening. You can text us, chat us, you can call us 24 hours a day. You can text us from 8 a.m. to midnight. All of this 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Not only can you call for supportive listening, you can text us if you've had a bad day, you can call for information and resources. If you are trying to figure it, and I think this is important without getting too far off track, one of the things pre-COVID, we had met with some faith leaders from around the county. And one of the things that they had mentioned, and we talked about it with Kate, is if someone that you support comes to you and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure where to refer them, or if you can't remember what to say, you can call our hotline with the person that you're with. And I wanted to use the right language, but I know there's a lot of different backgrounds on faith-based, because my brain tells me like parishioner, but I know that there's different terminology. So I'm just going to say those that you support so that I'm not leaving anybody out. We know that we turn to our faith leaders for advice, for support, for counseling. Where do we go? What do we do next? And so I really want to encourage you all to share this number also. But if you're sitting with somebody and you're not sure what to say, if they've said something to you that is more crisis than you think you're ready for, you can call. Our hotline specialists will answer 24 hours a day. You can put us on speakerphone and they can take it from there to help really figure out what's going on, de-escalate the situation, and then get this person some information and resources. So you can do it when you're with somebody. Maybe you want to call separately and say, hey, somebody said something to me and I'm not really sure if what I said was right, or can you give me some ideas of what I might say to this person? Our hotline specialists will walk you through that, and then they can give you some information and resources. So it's a great resource to use at any time. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna run the slides, but I'm gonna hand it over to my colleague, Laura Laskowski, who's gonna take the remainder of the slides for us. All right, and I'm gonna go here. Okay.
Okay, so I will take over and share some of our more population-specific and direct service programming. So in addition to our education programs, which are really comprehensive across the organization, and our hotline, we have some population-specific direct service programs that I want to share. And another one of our taglines, really just showing how comprehensive we are in terms of our populations that we serve. So as we mentioned, we have programming across the lifespan. So starting with youth and families, as Jen mentioned, the Linkages to Learning program, which is, I think this might even be a low number now, the 11 school sites. I think we're actually in 14 at this point. So we have school-based mental health providers in 14 school sites. So that includes a therapist, a family case manager, and then a community school coordinator. So they're on site there to provide not only the students and the youth, but also they can provide services to the family in terms of therapy and counseling, but also supportive services if there's need for housing support and food support, just accessing social supports if needed. So that's what the family case manager will support. And then we also provide case management and counseling services at an additional 10 schools. And that's more at the wellness centers at the high school and middle school levels, again, for the children, youth, and families. And a lot of this work supports some of the the parent and youth reunification therapy that our counselors provide. And so we have, I think this also, a lot of EveryMind staff is actually working outside of our office. So, you know, I don't even know how many staff we have at this point, but I would say 70% of our staff are actually working out at community sites, primarily in the schools. And then in terms of adults, the work we do is focused primarily on homeless support services. So starting with homeless outreach services for adults. We have a street outreach team that really does go out and tries to engage individuals who are experiencing homelessness and try to get them engaged in services if they are interested. And so that's a big bulk of the homeless outreach work that we do. In addition, we also support formerly homeless individuals to continue the support that they have in terms of resources, government resources. And so we have case managers that work on that project. And then we also provide individuals with access and support for applying for Social Security benefits. And so that application process can be quite daunting. And so we have some expertise on our staff who can help individuals with that process. And then we have a fairly significant older adult program. We have one program that focuses on older adults who are homebound and isolated and oftentimes quite lonely and don't necessarily have, the connections that they need to really feel good in terms of just, talking on a weekly basis. And so we connect them with a volunteer in our friendly visitor program. We spend quite a bit of time, matching the volunteer and the older adult to make sure that, it's a good match and there's some commonalities there. And then they will meet once a week. I mean, during COVID, we actually set up where there was more communication, obviously via phone, just for everyone's safety. But we were able to kind of continue the program and hoping to, move that back in person because that's much more fun. And so that's a really useful program, especially for our older adults who are really needing that companionship. And the impact on mental health and loneliness has really been well documented. And so we really are wanting to support that program. And then next is our representative payee program. And this focuses on really supporting the management of individuals who are not able to manage their own finances, if they're for mental illness issues or disability. And so we will connect them also with a volunteer who is very good with finances. And this is something that they are interested in doing. And so they will then be able to manage all of those budgets, provide the individual with, monthly amounts to live off of and ensure that they are not overutilizing their funds. And so again, two volunteer different programs, which have been ongoing for, I think, over 10 years now. And then finally, this is our Serving Together program. It's probably the program that has gotten us out of Montgomery County and really into the National Capital Region. And so we are working to support military and veterans and their families. And not only in terms of their mental health support, but also just general care coordination for any of the resources that they are owed based on their military and veteran status. And so we work with a coordinated care model, and we have actually access to peer navigators who, this number right here provides direct access to a peer navigator. So a military and veteran or a family member of a military and veteran can call this peer navigator with a question if they, maybe they are having an issue with their housing, And so they can call and ask, what potential resources they may be able to apply for. And so that's kind of the starting off point is the peer navigation. And so as I mentioned, a lot of our programs are volunteer driven and supported. I mean, we absolutely could not do the work we do without our volunteers. Friendly Visitor and Rep Payee are volunteer driven, and our hotline actually also is supported by many unbelievable volunteers who are able to get, I think, over 40 hours of training in crisis support, and then pick up a call shift and man the call center at these different times. And so if you or anyone is interested in volunteering, we are always looking for volunteers who are committed and interested in this cause. And as Jen mentioned, we definitely like to leave you with some resources and direct contacts to the program managers of the programs I just mentioned, because I have been there where you're looking for who to contact and it takes you 10 people to get to the right person. So we wanted to make sure that we left you with the specific names of people who may be able to support your needs in the community. So I've provided those for you there. And then just a couple of resource guides, which is not only our services, but really is a general overview guide of the mental health resources in Montgomery County, maybe a little outside of Montgomery County, but primarily in Montgomery County. And this is a great resource guide to print out, have available for your communities and share widely. It provides, hospitals, it provides clinics, therapists that take sliding scales and lower Medicaid. And so I would just, honestly, it's the number one requested thing that we get in terms of resources is this resource guide. And we're kind of continually updating it as new resources come on board. And then I also included a link to our education request form. All of this is on our website. So I just wanted to make that clear. So all of this information is on our website. The education request form is under education. The two resource guides are under resources. If you are interested in any community education, mental health first aid, or even if you just want to kind of talk about some, potential requests, the best place to start is really with the education request. Because essentially that just is a quick little form, and then it sends the request to Jen and I, and then we set up a quick little meeting to understand, really what the population is that we'd be presenting to. And I did want to just highlight that while we do have some really structured trainings kind of developed, we really work hard to meet directly with each individual group that we present to, so that we can hear from you in terms of what you're looking for, what the audience interests, knowledge might be. And so we can make sure that we're connecting and identifying probably the best fit for a presenter for each group. And while this is more time consuming, we really think it's important in terms of quality and effectiveness for the presentations. And then finally, there's two referral forms. And you do not need to be like a licensed therapist to do this referral. They really are, will go directly to our counselors. And then they can determine if, the person that you're referring meets any of the criteria for our programs. And if they don't, they will help you find additional resources to provide to that individual, in the community. So if, are the programs that we have, it's not a match, then they will follow up with additional resources. So if there's a specific request for an individual, that is a good place to start as well.
Laura, I'm going to hop in 1 second for a couple questions in chat, which kind of go along with the services.
Okay.
So I saw one of the questions was whether or not we offer mental health services in Spanish. We do. So many of our counselors are bilingual. So we offer community counseling, and we have Spanish-speaking therapists. And then in our schools, a majority of those services are done in Spanish. And I wanted to add also, we can do education trainings and presentations also in Spanish. So we have EveryMind educators who are fluent in Spanish who do a lot of presentations. So I wanted to answer that question. Okay. Okay, hold on 1 second. Here we go. Hold on. I got to get my mouse to the right spot. Here we go. All right.
Sure. And so these are, our social media links. Please follow us. We have all of our events are posted in social media. We often hold community events, town halls, community conversations on up and coming topics around mental health. So, feel free to join there. We also have a newsletter you can join or you can sign up for on our website. So if you're interested in that, it will kind of put a whole digest of everything related to our work each month. And so you won't get, each email, but you'll get like one digested thing in that newsletter. Just to remind you what we talked about in case all of that talking you do not remember. So we talked a little about stigma and our framework for addressing mental health in the community, a look at our direct services, and then we left you with resources and some key contacts. And if you're inclined, we would love for you to just put your camera up to this QR code and take our very brief evaluation / survey to tell us how we did, and even, what other topics that you may be interested in terms of training. But we also have a few minutes for questions if you have any additional questions.
Okay, is it okay if I stop sharing for a second?
Sure.
Okay. I don't know how to do like the QR code at the same time while we can do questions.
We can send it out after. And
I know there was another question. I think Tali, you asked how are our services paid for? So EveryMind has it's kind of a combination of, we have a lot of county contracts with Montgomery County. We do a lot of fundraising. We have so one of the things for education's department, we offer mental health first aid. We have a grant from SAMHSA. It's a 5-year grant to bring mental health first aid. So it's a combination of kind of a little bit of everything. We've got some other foundational giving as well that's kind of helps support all of the work that we do. And then we also do some, it's not just to give you a clear, we also do some Medicaid billing as well. Hopefully that answered your question.
If anybody else has questions, feel free to unmute yourself or use the chat if that is preferable, but we'll give you a few minutes to ask any questions you have. And I have a link to the training survey, and I'm going to put that in the chat.
Do you have specific trainings or services for like trauma informed care or just trauma? You know, a lot of people went through a lot of things during the pandemic. And, you know, a lot of different things transpired in these last 2 years that have left a lot of people traumatized. And also with the mental health first aid, are you doing it for youth and, you know, to work with youth and as well as for the adults? Because I know it's two different ones. So do you all offer both of those?
Sure. I can take it, Jen.
All right, go for it.
Okay, so starting with trauma informed care, we do have trainings developed and have done, you know, several trainings on trauma informed care. Primarily, that's our therapists that work in the Linkages to Learning program, and would be happy to, you know, kind of create or target those as needed to different populations. And then for the adult and youth, yes, we have trained facilitators in both the youth curriculum and the adult curriculum, so we can provide mental health first aid in both of those curriculums.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, last call for questions. Feel free to unmute yourself or put them in the chat.
One more question. Your outreach, you did mention that you had an outreach team. How do you all like navigate through the county? Like, do you have certain areas that you outreach to? And then what, like I saw you had stabilization housing, like how do you all transition a person? What's the process? If you found someone out on the streets that's homeless or you found, you know, you connected with them during your outreach team.
Yeah, Laura, I can take this one.
Okay, good.
So we currently have, we have a contract with Montgomery County, the services to end and prevent homelessness. So we have a team
For y'all
first.
purchase staff.
Yes, Steph, yes.
Okay.
So we have, so our contract actually covers the entire county, although, you know, over the years of services, so we could go out anywhere in the county potentially, but typically we are more lower Montgomery County. So we, and then there's, I'm sorry, upper. So we're in like Rockville, Burtonsville, oh my gosh, just so you know, I'm really bad with geography right now. So, but we do have kind of a certain catchment area. But if somebody, so one of the other things that we do, which I realize now is that maybe since we did our slide deck, we also operate the 24-hour homeless information line. So it actually goes through our hotline. So you can call if you see somebody that's homeless and you're not sure what to do, you can call our homeless information line, and that information gets directed to the organization that kind of covers that area. And then we'll go out and check in to see what's going on with that person. So our team, you know, does really kind of engage and canvas areas of the county, trying to kind of see what it is that people need, because not everybody who's homeless actually is ready for housing or even wants housing right away. So our goal then really is to figure out what it is that we can give them to support them, try to build that relationship. If it's coming back every week with water and a granola bar, maybe a McDonald's gift card, something to just kind of start building that relationship. And then the county does have, you know, there are certain like requirements, and then they can get into housing, and there's a whole host of housing. Now, EveryMind specifically does HIP, or the Housing Initiative Program. And then, you know, once they're in that apartment, and then, you know, I know there's all kinds of very specific, like how long you have to have been homeless. And I cannot quote you on all of that, I will tell you. But once all of that has been said, and then they go into that housing, then a different team kind of takes over to help somebody learn how to be in an apartment. which is a different struggle that I think is also kind of one that's not always known. I think it seems, oh, well, somebody has an apartment, like all is well now. But it's a struggle for a lot of the individuals that we support to kind of learn what that looks like again, and that you don't have to take all your stuff with you every day when you
Right.
leave your house. So there's a lot of support in that area. So yeah, did that help answer it?
Yes, yes. Do y'all have peer specialists on your team? And y'all, or part of you?
So we don't have any peer specialists in the housing,
Okay.
in our housing case managers. We do the peer specialists in our Serving Together, the military and veteran program.
Okay.
Almost all of the staff that are there either themselves have been, are veterans, or I've forgotten, maybe spouses of veterans, but deeply involved in the veteran community.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jennifer, if I may ask, in response to your recent answer, where you offer help when someone is in the apartment, would this also translate to our newcomers in the county?
So it can, if they were homeless. So if we're thinking about, is that, do you mean like maybe newly arrived immigrants, or?
No, the newly arrived immigrants, because most of them in hotels have actually shared with us that especially the females are feeling very depressed. A majority of them are moving into apartments. So I was just wondering how else we could help them. So your presentation has been great, because I've learned so much just being on this call.
Oh, good. So yes, certainly those individuals could potentially end up on our caseloads as well. We can work with anybody. They all, of course, it all goes through Seth, and that there's a whole housing continuum, but those individuals could certainly be part of our services. I mean, one of the things, so for the newly arrived immigrants, the counseling services, if you saw the contact when you get the slide deck for the director of counseling. So we actually have a separate contract with the county to provide free counseling services to newly arrived immigrants in Montgomery County. I think right now it's being done in English and Spanish. We used to do it in French, but I'm not sure. I don't think they're still doing the French right now. But if anybody that maybe is newly arrived and needs counseling services, we can do that for free.
Okay, and so we should call the number you had on the slide.
So you can call the, I'm just coming up to her. Her name is Leah, but you want to look for the director of counseling, or it just says counseling.
Okay, thank you.
And she oversees all of the community counseling, can get you set up right away.
Perfect. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I have a quick question. What do we do if we find somebody who's homeless on the street? How much information do we need to provide in order to get somebody to go out to help that person?
Really, we just need if you can, kind of maybe the cross street where they are. And I mean, I'll be honest with you, as much as you get is great. So if there was a name, if someone's willing to give it to you, and a description is helpful. If somebody, maybe if you saw somebody specifically has maybe a shopping cart. So that way, when our teams and teams from other organizations go out, there's a few identifying factors. If maybe it's a suitcase, maybe it's somebody who's walking with a limp or has a cane, something, any description. If you know, male or female, if you, depending on, how much that person might give you that they want to disclose, any physical descriptions, if it's beard, if it's long hair, if it's just something to help the teams know, because they will also say, like, we're here, somebody called. And if we have a name, like, I mean, even better, that way our team can address somebody by name. But not everybody's willing to give that information. There's a lot of trust issues with the homeless population. So did that help?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any final questions? All right, thank you all so much for being here. I know it was a beautiful evening, and so the fact that you ended daylight hours with us, we really appreciate. And thank you so much, Laura and Jennifer, for your time and for sharing your resources, for all the work that you do in the community. We really appreciate all that you're doing, especially during the pandemic, really at the height of the conversations around mental health. We're glad to have systems in place and for folks like you to be doing the work. So thank you so much. And to everybody else, please look out for future events and other town halls. And we're glad you could be here. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Same. Have a good evening, everyone.
Good
Thank you.
night.
So much.
Night, everyone.